gosh. What? That's crazy. Oh, hello there. Thanks for stopping by. Just enjoying a little reading time. Well, as promised, I am going to give you guys a little quick recap of what we did Monday, but also I'm sure you're feeling a little bit nervous about the quiz on Wednesday and wanted to set you up so that you know how to best prepare for that. So let's jump into Monday. We learned that we use science by our tool of the empirical method. And this method is going to best allow us to go into an investigation, not assuming anything or presuming anything or putting any limitations on what is and isn't possible, how the universe is or isn't at this point, other than the method itself. That's the only thing we're presuming, that we're going to use this to determine that. And so in anytime you're using a tool, we talked about how you want to know the parts of it, know then how it's used, but then comes the practice. And we've been baby stepping our way around the empirical method as we've been diving into the two cases, the apartment surprise that is with the CSI investigators, Gil Grissom and Sarah Seidel, and then the Scuba Steve with our heroes that you can see here, Catherine Willows and Nick Stokes. The guy, squinty guy in the background, he is the coroner who we'll learn is responsible for anything with the dead body. And then you've got the big guy right there, who is the investigator who brought them to see this scuba diver up in a tree. Now, let's talk about getting ready for the test. So what I want you guys to see here is that, or quiz, sorry, didn't mean to traumatize any of you. I know a test can feel a little intimidating. So at the very beginning of our forensics intro, I gave you guys a list of the objectives. So let's first talk about a test or assessment tips. The first thing that I want you guys to know is really something that not a lot of people appreciate, and I didn't appreciate in school, is that the best way to prepare for a test is to be learning the material well as you're going through whatever unit or chapters that you're going through, which means being present in class, not only physically coming to class, but also mentally. So you're staying focused, you're writing down the notes, you're asking questions, you're engaging with it. The more you engage with the material, the better it's going to be in your brain. That way, when it comes time to prepare for a test or a quiz, you already have it down and it should just be a review. Preparing for the test is not the time because you have not focused or really invested in any learning along the way to now sit and the night before have this burden and this weight on you that I've got to learn everything now and try to understand things and do whatever. Part of the benefit of that is it gives you time as you're going through a unit to come ready to ask any questions and to get any clarifications. Because if you wait till the day before or the night before, not only is it going to feel overwhelming and you're going to procrastinate it, but then you might come across stuff that you don't understand or you want clarification on, and then it's too late. You don't have any classroom time to talk with the teacher or come in to see the teacher to get that clarification and help in that way. So show up to class, be there mentally, be physically, do your homework. Okay. Again, a lot of times I think we see the homework as just taking medicine, just getting through stuff, rather than a teacher, if they're doing their job well, which should be getting you to learn the material, the homework should revolve around and be focused on getting you to know that material, having something to do with you mastering the objectives or understanding the objectives, so that when it comes time to show what you know, you're even better prepared to do that. So you've got that, and that requires not only doing the homework, but even if there is no homework, doing some kind of reflection on it. And I would always tell my students this, is that if I don't assign any homework, what I do expect that you do is to take 15 minutes to go home, and while the information is fresh in your mind, go through it, and maybe even have another journal where you're going to then take the notes down or orient them or rewrite them. Or even in this case, we often have little rooms in the margin or spaces at the bottom. By putting it in your own words, by looking through it and reflecting on it, you're owning it. It's like eating the material and you're getting it into your brain. But you got to do that. You've got to actively be involved with the material. You can't just learn it in class and then put it away, and 2 or 3 weeks later, then get it out. And then you're asking yourself, oh my gosh, I really don't know what this meant, or I don't see the connection between these parts here. So, daily reflection. And that takes a commitment on your part. That takes an investment of your time. Don't look at learning as just something that's done to me. I have to do what the teacher is telling me to do. And that's that andragogy that we talked about, where you're going from being a child learner to an adult learner. Because at the end of the day, when it comes time and you have to learn something or get prepared for something, when you're done with any schooling, you've got to learn how to manage the material, learn how to understand the material, so that you can then do something with it. Then the next thing is know what's important. This was terrible for me, and maybe why I always procrastinated studying and never got good study habits, is I don't feel, and maybe they did, and I was just too distracted. But especially in college and university, they never started by saying, what is it? What are the important points? What is it expected that you understand and know by the end of the unit? I remember going into lecture halls at university, 600 people, and we'd sit there, and the um, professor would go on and on in the lectures talking about all of this material, um, and then what chapters we were to cover. And then there'd be this test. And I remember going home and saying, how do I know what to focus on? And I would like try to copy down the whole book, sit down, but you just feel lost. And I remember even feeling resentful that, man, that's part of the teacher's job. Yeah, I'm not asking you to tell me exactly what's on the test, but help me focus and manage my time so that I can use the time that I am sitting down to study, my commitment to doing well on the test. I can use that time well. So that really stuck with me, and that's why regularly I want to give you guys these objectives. Now, because we're not meeting more regularly, what and haven't gotten to some of the objectives at the beginning of the What is Science unit, I highlighted some of these that I want you guys to really focus on between now and tomorrow. So understand that science is more than learning about what scientists have already discovered, but it's a way of looking at the world. Now, in true adult learning fashion, I'm not telling you specific points that you're just going to regurgitate. This is an understanding that you need to have. So I suggest that when you go through these, the best thing to do, piece of paper, just blank piece of paper, scratch paper, or what you can do is even in your investigation notebook, wherever you left off, okay, use this and just put quiz review up on the top. Okay, you can use a page here and try to answer these first. Okay, just off the top of your head, imagine this is the quiz. Okay, but these are ideas that I want you to know. So if you know these ideas, know that I'm making questions for the test off of these. So if you know this and you can explain or communicate why this is the case, then however I ask you a question on the test, you'll do well on it. So in other words, this, if you know this, that's the really challenging part. So the test and the quiz will be easy because you really have the whole idea, the big understanding down. So understanding that science is more than learning about what scientists have already covered, but that it's a way of looking at the world. So I ask myself, do I understand that? Do I know that? And just start musing on that and writing down on your paper some ideas that come to your mind about this. Do that first. Then what you can do is you can go back into your notes and see what is it that we wrote down, what is it that we did in this unit that that touches on this, that helps you appreciate this. um, so that's the first thing. Then go to the second one. Explain just what science is, what method of investigation will best allow us to do science right. So, what is science? Oh, okay. So, I write down what is science, define good science versus bad science. Based on what I've learned so far, because I've shown up to class and I've been really focused on the material, I should have a pretty good idea of this. So, write that stuff down. Define forensic science. Okay, from what I know now, if I was taking the test right now, what would I put down? Complete a diagram of the empirical method. Okay, I'm gonna draw my arrows. I know that at least. And then, okay, what's over on this side? Write it down. What are the different parts of the empirical method down there? So you're actually engaging with the material. You're seeing what you know. The good thing about this is that you see what you already know, but then you're going to see where the gaps are. Now, after you've tried it on your own, now go back, okay, like this would, like your notes and everything was the answer key, and go and correct it. You might even want to use a different pen and just say, oh, I got this wrong, and then put in the right answer to it. And this now becomes your study sheet where you're going from here to you specifically. What do you know? What are you still weak in and need to study? And once you got something down, that's where I like making my little check boxes. Oh, yep, I've got that. Yep, I've got that. Define good versus bad science. Okay, I got that. Define forensic science. I'm still not. You go through, and can you see how you're narrowing it down? So not only are you preparing for the test, but now you're focusing what study time you do have on what things you're still weak on, because that's what you need to strengthen yourself on. And I think it makes studying time more defined. It's not just, well, I just have to sit down and now I don't know what to do. You're becoming very active with it. And for me, when I study anything, being as active with it as possible versus just like staring at the page, it helps me. That's the kind of learner I am. Okay. Communicate the dangers of presumptions in science and in the law. So when you come across this, some of it might be that, oh, well, the vocabulary, if you're going to communicate something well, make sure you know the big words and you're very clear on that. So we know already science, but empirical method, what is the empirical method? But now we have the word the law here. What is law? And we defined what law is. Okay. And then this big one down here, again, is nothing that we talked about maybe directly, but it's something that I feel like you can know and understand from everything that we've covered so far. Um, so that is the great way to focus your time, organize your time to study, participate in the material so that it gets into you. The more that you do that, the more you practice, the more confident you will be. So if you did this once, like this was the first draft or your first attempt, then study what you're weak on, then put it aside and do it again. Um, it takes work, but I think if you're like me, you're thinking when people get an A on an exam, it's just like, oh, they're smart and I'm just stupid. Well, yeah, maybe things stick with them better and they don't have to put in as much time. But if you know you get nervous on tests, you know that that nervousness causes you um, to not communicate as well because you're in this fight or flight mode. If you know that you struggle sometimes communicating ideas, then you might need to practice more than somebody else. But that doesn't mean you're stupid. You're figuring out in these young years what your strengths and limitations are and what you need to do to show that you know the material and to do well. Think of this a test or a quiz as a competition, and you're preparing for the competition. You want to do as well as possible on the competition. Will there always be people that do better? Yes. Will there be people that do worse? Yes. But what you need to do is do the best that you can possible. And I think people would not have the test anxiety they have if they go into the test feeling confident that they prepared, they put some time into it, and now we can let the chips fall where they may. I know when I was competing in swimming, um, there were certain meets that I know that I hadn't that I was less confident and went in super nervous because I didn't put in the hours or I didn't train as hard as I should, or something came up that got in the way of me doing that. And then there's other ones where I was up on the blocks and I said, okay, man, I've done the best possible. I've put in the time. I've listened to the coaches. I got some good sleep. I've been eating right. And that just helped settle me to know that however the outcome of it, I'm going to be in a position to do my best. And that's what I want you guys to think about. And that's part of what schooling should be about is getting into these habits, knowing how to manage your time, knowing how to study, knowing how to set yourself up for doing the best job possible. All right. Let's see. Was there anything else on that? And once you're doing that, also it's important to step away every once in a while. Set a time limit on it. 20 minutes. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to step away. I'm going to go get a little something to eat. I'm going to walk around the block, clear my head a little bit, and then come back to it. Sometimes I would sit down thinking, oh, I've got to put 3 hours into studying, and how much of that, looking back on it, was really productive. So the more you can be fresh in your mind, the more you can clear your head because you just feel like you're getting bogged down by these ideas. Sometimes you're not using and managing the time as well as possible. So do that. And part of what that can mean too is you don't have to get up from your desk, especially if you're easily distracted, and then it's going to be another 3 or 4 hours before I sit myself down again. Do something else. Just do a little. Get out your little um, interest journal, okay? And one of the things that I thought that you could be doing, remember we talked about that Ed Sheeran song, is look at different songs that you like and listen to, and just really listen to the words. And as you're listening to the words, I think that Ed Sheeran song was called "The Shape of You." It's really catchy. I just listened to it again. It's very toe tapping. shape of you. And as you're listening to the words, just write down little bullet points, little lines that it says or ideas that come to your mind as you're listening to this. But one of the things, ask yourself is what is the message here? What is the idea that they're trying to sell you on or get you to believe about yourself, about the world, about what's important in life, about what makes people happy, whatever, and just jot that down, because I think that's something very interesting, um, and is something we need to be more critical thinking about, is what I guess what I'm trying to say. Every time you're getting an influence coming at you, you need to start thinking about it in these kind of ways. Don't just mindlessly sit there and have it wash over you. Use your brain, strengthen your brain by being critical thinking in that way with something you enjoy. So you get a twofer. You're getting your brain strong, you're learning how to be critical thinking, you're assessing what is the worldview, what's the idea, how does that pair with my worldview, with my idea? Maybe I don't even know, and now I've got a question to go to my pastor or go to my parents or somebody I respect and talk to them about that, because songs are filled with ideas that happen to be current now in our culture, and listening to what these songwriters are saying or questions that they're asking or things they're focusing on can give you a little window into that. And so you know how to address those things when you come face to face with them in your daily life. Also, your superhero deep dive. Um, how is this? So superhero, and another page in your journal, deep dive. How is this challenging you to learn about yourself? Um, what are what are the things? Maybe it's causing you to question, okay, Mr. Silly paired me with this superhero, and the superhero is this. I don't know whether I'm this way or not. So again, it gives you a question or a direction so that you can go to your parents, or you can maybe do something to see if you are um, good at this or not good at this, or challenge yourself in a certain kind of way, or explore a certain area that you've never explored before to see if it's true, whether am I like this or not. And all of this is moving you towards figuring yourself out, like we talked about in class, so that the more you know about you, the better position you're going to be in to know what what job out there or what direction should I go with my life. Okay, so some quick tips on that. Enjoy the study time. Don't be so nervous and stressed out about it that you can't just enjoy the fact that we've gone through this material now. You have grown, you have learned, you have been challenged, and I have um, every confidence that you guys are going to do well on this. But it still requires you to put in that time to make sure that you're not just doing well on the quiz, but you can enjoy the quiz because you've prepared for it. Okay? Go Squad, go. I believe in you. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Squad out.